So welcome, everyone. I'm sure we'll have some people trickle in, so I appreciate all of you guys who came on time. Sometimes traffic kind of gets the best of people when they come in after work, so. Thank you for bringing the rental report. Did everyone capture one of these? If you don't, I will pass them around and. Robert, just really quick, do you want to just take one and pass it down? Sure. Do you want to speak to the rental market? So Robert is a property manager. He actually did, I think, our second presentation when our group first started 8-9 years ago, wherever long it's been. It's a long time. He called me, he's like, oh, I heard about your investor group, and I was like, yeah, he said, I'm a property manager. I'd like to join you guys. And I said, well, would you like to speak? Speaker. And he ended up speaking on the blog. He was good too. I was like, okay, you're good. So anyway, I refer a lot of people over to Robert. He's a property manager, realtor, broker, owns PMI and his wife. Do you want to give us a rental market report?
Sure.
Kind of rundown of what's going on?
Look, it's good. I mean, we're still moving. You're going to talk about the sales market, which you can see some of the things are dropping because the interest rates have changed kind of dynamics. But those that were going to qualify for a house to buy that now can't, still need a place to live. We still have shortages on housing, and so it's continued pressure on the rental market. I find that our single family homes turn a whole lot quicker than the 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom apartments, condos, things like that.
Really? Okay.
The apartments there's a lot more inventory of those.
Okay.
But if they're priced right, they're
don't cost as much as the house.
I know.
well, you get some of these new places that want $1,500-$1,800 for 1 bedroom. You push the price on a good 1 bedroom that's not like those, that offers a lot of the things. You can turn those pretty quick, but that's what we're seeing. You take a look at market, it's still, the numbers are up, it's all green arrows.
So in conversation today with somebody, we were talking about he's not here. So he was talking about the red district. And I was like, what's the red? I'm thinking red light district. And I'm like, that's a real thing. And I was like, is there a new, are they calling some place the red light district? And I was like, forestry? I don't know. Anyway, I'm like, my mind started going, he goes, red over on Plum. And I'm like, oh, they did call that red. I'm like, maybe that wasn't such a great marketing idea because I can't be the only one that thought of that. Anyway, so kind of getting back to what I was saying is, so he was telling me that the rents over there are like $1,800 for a studio or higher. So what is your thought on that in the rental market? Like, do you think that will be something of it? Like, what do you think? Yeah. Do you think it'll stick? That's a great, yeah.
It seems like they're able to rent them out. I mean, they offer a lot of unique things in that. I don't know what the red district was, stand for Rio experience district. So they offer a lot of different things, being in a mixed development with retail, office, and residential. So they can charge that. But the nice thing is, if you've got rentals around that area, that helps you be able to come up. As I've seen in some of the places in that area, we're not asking $1,800 for studio, but 2 bedroom, you're getting $1,500-$1,600 if it's decent, give or take.
Yeah.
Just because they want to be close to it, they don't want to pay that price, and it just drives that.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I was just kind of curious because it came up in conversation. I'm like, $1,800 for a studio. Yeah. Like, how big is that studio? Is it like giant?
The newer apartments.
Are they bigger?
In South Reno, in the Sparks area, they have all these amenities in there. They're charging large rents for them.
Yeah.
It's an unmet need.
Yeah,
So not everybody can afford those high priced units.
right.
And so it drives them back to the more affordable properties that may not offer pool, security, all those bells and whistles that they have, but they don't care about it. They care about
Gotcha.
what they can afford.
Yeah. Because they'll have a gym, they'll have a pool, things, security. Okay, like you mentioned. Sorry, I just
They just need to make a
restated.
brand in those complexes. We'll use that.
Right, exactly. So housing market, as you mentioned, prices are coming down. There's a lot of price reductions. They're staying on the market longer. Still a seller's market. Do you guys remember what is a buyer's market? When does it turn to a buyer's market? If they're typically looking at the days on market.
Over 6 months.
Yeah, so 6 months or more is the turn to a buyer's market. So the days on market is increasing, so we are shifting. If that continues, then we will my guesstimation, let me see my crystal ball. Will be by sometime next year, we're gonna start seeing some adjustments into like a buyer's market. But the specialists say it's not gonna happen till 2024 or end of 2023. I feel like it might be happening a little sooner. But there's still a shortage of inventory.
It just depends on interest rates.
Well, yeah. Yeah,
A couple more 3/4 point basis. Pumps.
yeah, planned, right? Yeah. So they're supposed to increase the rates quite a bit. So I don't know what's happening, but if anyone has any kind of like insight or I don't know, premonition, I'm open to it. So anyway, so list price received, they're still getting 100% of what they're asking. This is all for July, apparently. Median sale price $595. Is this Reno? This is just Reno, so not Reno Sparks. So that's come down. New listings 476. Active inventory 965. I don't think it's been 965 for like a really long time. So we haven't had that many homes on the market. So now there's actually some inventory to kind of choose from. Sellers are still thinking it's a hot seller's market and they can get top dollar. So a lot of them are still listing pretty high. So that doesn't really mean anything for you guys, but it could mean that maybe, you know, just kind of having some education surrounding if you're listing one of your investment properties. How many of you guys have investment properties that you're looking to sell before the market comes down? Yeah. So, you know, so even in the stock market, like they have trends, right? So trends go, you know, they go up and down. Well, right now, so the trend is actually, we're kind of like right about there on the trend. So if the prices are going to come down, you're probably looking at, I mean, if you want to sell soon, because I don't know how quickly that's going to go down. It could come back up. I don't know. I don't think it will, but you never know. But you want to catch it on the tail end of this, because if it doesn't do that and it's going like that, you don't want to wait till it's down here. And then you want to price right, because otherwise they call this chasing the market. So meaning you price it to like yesterday's values. So you price it to what people were getting here. And then you're chasing the market, and then your product gets stale. So as you list it, it gets stale. And then you're just constantly chasing it and dropping the price. And then you sell it for much less than had you priced it right here. So just saying. Okay, so after that little thing, does anyone have any comments they would like to share about the market or questions that they have for the group? Not me. I already shared mine.
We're kind of watching the market out in Fernley, and we're seeing more often, prices are coming down by like 5,000 at a time.
Wow,
just out
yeah.
there.
I think we're seeing that.
I don't know if
Reno,
that's like
Sparks, Carson.
offset for interest rates, maybe. I don't know how much that affects that price point, but
Yeah, I don't know. And then the buyers are kind of holding off. Some of them are renting instead of buying. A lot of people think, I think the interest rates are going to come down. And I'm like, I think you missed that boat, but
Yeah.
okay, it could happen, you know, I don't I don't know. Yeah, someday, yeah, in about 7 to 10 years, maybe, kind of like the cycle of real estate. But, yeah, so on that note, are you okay if we go around the room?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
have time? I don't know what your schedule's like. I don't know if you have to get to a game or something, or,
No,
no, you got kids. Oh, I'm sorry. Whose game was it?
That was Zane.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, if we could start right over here, do you mind going Jen first and just telling us, who are you, what's your, what's your game plan, or what are you going after, anything that you want to get out of today? You can share whatever you want.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Jim Cook. I know some of you. I've been studying real estate for a very long time and finally decided to get my real estate license. So it's in the mail. Should be a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks yet, who knows? I call the real estate division every week. So my goal is, my broker's plan for me is to do 4 client deals and then do 1 for myself. And repeat until I'm wore out. So I'm gonna be looking for anything and everything. Actually, I kind of a lead on my way in today, looking at the property over in the back road. Obviously, I'm not an agent yet, so I can't do that, but I'm saying my broker's looking over to look.
Thanks. There we go.
So are you back in town now?
What?
Living here in town now?
I'm staying in Sparks, actually, one of his properties that I'm rehabbing, but I still live in Stagecoach.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Jason. I built most of my portfolio in the stock market in most part. Looking at transitioning into the real estate market, looking for like cash flowing assets, syndication, partner group, project. Someone to help mentor even. So if anyone's interested in a project that we can go into, contact me after the meeting. I'd be interested in talking with you guys.
Sounds good. And the next. You gotta go for it.
My name is Federico Reeves, I'm for the Janelle, also a investor for land.
Janelle, I just got my real estate license last Thursday. Been kind of in the investing side for 7 to 10 years, and I'm excited to get my real estate license. So got my broker salesperson license last Thursday. Thank you.
Yeah.
My name's Alex. I own a company called Reno Area Home Buyers with my partner Wes. We do flipping, wholesaling, rentals, ground up here in Reno. A little bit of everything. So I have 4 deals under contract that I need to assign. All different price points. One's in Hawthorne. That's gonna be a hard sell. One, and then the other 3, one's in Washoe Valley, more of a luxury property, 3,000 square feet. And then one's in South Reno and one's in like Midtown area. So
Okay,
they're all ready to go. If anyone is interested in buying something in the next like 2 weeks, let me know afterwards. We'll get it done.
okay. Yeah, maybe we should talk more. That's good.
Yeah.
Get them all
Those are
like,
the ones that still need to be. signed.
Okay,
Three
yeah.
that I've already.
nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm here to learn about the market, keep a tab on things. I'm an architect and interior designer, just to help my clients, position their projects. I also have a podcast. Ginger's episode just came live today. It's Real Estate Professionals. There's lots of other good episodes to listen to too that can help you with business. And I also have a program or class for continuing education credits for you real estate people, which will soon be automated for a home study. So I'll keep you updated on it.
Nice. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Marcella. Nice to meet you, everybody. I'm a real estate investor. I have properties in Pittsburgh, California, and Salt Lake City, Utah. Right now, I'm currently working in a flip. I'm doing a renovation here in McCarran. Working that project right now. Been an investor since 2018. I'm always looking to meet new people, anything that I can help you, or maybe you guys can help me and make business together. That would be great. I live in Truckee, California right now, so my commute was a little bit rainy, but I'm so happy to be here, and yeah.
Awesome. Welcome.
My name's Evan. I'm actually interested in niche.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably still in a situation, just like trying to guess what the market's gonna do, but I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a difficult time, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Hi, Rich. I'm a controller for a private company, but I have my real estate and my business broker license as well. I'm just coming up for a private money loan investment and looking to put that money into some things.
Very good.
I'm Christina, local single family investor, also a broker. I do put a lot of people into homes that couldn't conventionally qualify. A lot of seller finance, lease option, contract for deeds. We also do a lot of trading in, moving up, moving down. Just talk to me, a lot of out of the box creative deals.
Robert Hughes, I'm broker owner of PM Reno, and also I have 4 doors that we own, my wife and I own. So we do invest also, and always here to learn, always here to help. If you have any questions about property management side and things we can help you with, just let me know.
Awesome.
My name's Mitch. I buy value add real estate.
Awesome. Tyler, you're always short and sweet. Do you want to add to that?
Very vague. What? So you can be more specific, but I quit caring. So I have an office building that I'm working on right now. That's we're repositioning it. It'll probably double in value in like 6 months. We flip multifamily. We don't really flip single family homes anymore. It's too much work for not enough return.
Okay.
So pretty much anything that can be added, I can add value to and increase the value.
Are you hanging on to the office building and leasing it out, or you're?
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool thing where. So I bought that one just myself. I have a business partner that buys stuff together also. But this one, I'm using it to adjust my taxes. It's like a big motivator. Like it'll cash flow and that's great, but it's gonna like pummel my tax liability.
Nice.
Through like cost segregation and cash out refinancing, that I'll get my money back without taxes.
Nice.
So it's kind of some different things. But
Are you doing anything in the opportunity zone?
If you're interested in that, let me know. I don't have one, but I know someone that's willing to sell a project that's just got final approval on all the permits, but he's tired of the headache. That's not really selling it.
I know.
It's, so his problem is that he bought it thinking it was ready, but the permits weren't quite there. And so it's taken him about 6 months to get the permits. And now he's like, well, I prefer cash. And so if it's within like what he bought it, like he'll sell it. But it's a 6-plex on Wheeler in Midtown. And it's within the opportunity zone there.
I'm Isabel and I'm here to network and learn.
Awesome. And you also have your real estate license. Yes. And then, Anne, do you want to go next? Online? Do you want to unmute? Are you ready? Holly, Susanna, whoever's, there you go. Hi, Anne.
Hi, Ginger. Hi, this is Ann. Formerly with Kurtz Realty, now moving over to Fathom Realty. So realtor, don't have any local investment properties, but looking. But I do have rentals out of state.
Awesome. Welcome. Susanna, Holly, you want to unmute and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Holly, and I have been coming to the group for a little while, and I'm just basically right now saving and looking at buying investment properties, probably back on the East Coast.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And Susanna didn't unmute, so I'm just going to assume she's busy making dinner or I don't know, whoever, whatever she's doing. With that, she's busy. Okay, so perfect. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our guest speaker. Did everyone have Josh's information? I'm going to go ahead and just pass it around. If you guys want to.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're.
No,
you're fine.
I just totally messed up everything.
I did it. I'm always doing it.
No, you're fine.
Anyway, well, you're getting that taken care of?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're doing. Yeah, I see. So as the slide says, my name is Josh Nelson. I am the owner of PuroClean here in Reno. I'll go through a little bio, but basically, from an investment standpoint, we're not property investors. We're here as a resource for those of you that are investors. Robert can speak to us as a resource. We're kind of continually doing projects for them, but we do property damage restoration. Our tagline is the paramedic, the property damage, which is basically what we do. You name it, we can figure it out. That changed. So we really focus on water and mold is really our kind of niche. We have a crew that does a really good job with water and mold damage. And so we'll go through some of that stuff. And then by that, right, as I was putting together these presentations, I realized we also just work on things that stink. That's just a reality of our business. We end up in stinky situations more often than I care to admit. But we've also gotten into some of the environmental testing. So we're doing asbestos and mold testing and things like that we'll talk about. So we can kind of help determine what it is that stinks and what we need to do about it. So we're wide open. Essentially, it's hard to get us to say no to a project. We do residential and commercial. We cover literally all of Northern Nevada. We've been out in Elko, Winnemucca. You'll see a video from Winnemucca. And then we've just started going into California. We just got our licensing up there taken care of. We've got a lot of demand up in the Truckee area on around the California side of Tahoe and then down into South Lake. Not that we wouldn't go farther than that into Sacramento or anything like that, but it's really, for us, it makes sense to kind of try to stay local. A lot of drive time heading in those directions. So that's kind of where we're at and what we do. Just a real quick background on me. I grew up in Colorado, way up in the mountains, Mount Evans, if anybody knows Colorado, is right in my backyard at 14,000 feet. So consequently, those of us, any of you that have grown up out in the boonies, you become a DIY person just by default. You have no choice. There's nobody else around, nobody to call and come help you. So you end up just doing your thing. Went to college in Boulder. I was a ski bum for a while, and then I ended up in the ski industry for 20 years, which is more do it yourself. And then when COVID hit, the ski industry went totally sideways. And I just saw an opportunity. It was one of those moments where I decided I'm going to reinvent myself and start over. So I bought this franchise in 2020. A lot of people think I'm totally nuts for trying to start a business in the middle of a pandemic when the whole world is going crazy. But the reality is we did a ton of COVID cleaning as part of that whole thing. So we would go in and do the disinfectant cleaning and all that stuff. And I've just always been a dirty hands type of guy. I like being a mechanic. I like building stuff. So it kind of fit with what I do pretty well. In the 2 years we've grown, we've got a team of 8 now with about 50 years of experience. I'll be totally honest, one of those guys has 32 years of experience. So the other 7 make up the rest of that. But it's really, we've got a solid team in an industry, in a market where people are really struggling to get people, and industry that's so dependent on good people. We've been really lucky. We've got a crew, 4 techs that are in the field that have been with us for over a year now. Sean is the guy that's got 30 some years of experience, and he's been with me for a little over a year. So it's been a really solid project, all thus far anyway. Like I said, we really specialize in water and mold damage cleanup. And I'll go into a little bit more about that, and I've got all sorts of pictures and stuff, but that's kind of where we focus. And what's really interesting in Reno, we talk to so many people that say, oh, it's such a dry climate, there can't be mold and water problems aren't really a problem and all of these different things. Well, the reality is, because that mindset exists, is really why we do so much work with water and mold damage. People will have leaks that they're like, it'll dry out, no big deal, I don't have to worry about it. And within a couple of days, now they've got mold growth and other damage, and it's sort of expanded beyond there. So a lot of what I'll talk about here is the importance and significance of getting things taken care of quickly. And then part of the guy that works with me that's got a bunch of experience, he does our asbestos testing, which there's all kinds of rules and regulations. And those of you that have multifamily properties probably already are familiar with them. If you're not, let us know and we can get you help with that. Essentially, anytime you're tearing out anything that might contain asbestos, you've got to get it tested. And we can do that internally. We can do it pretty quick and easy, sort of limit the cost to a certain degree. I would say 95% of our tests that we do for asbestos come back negative. The problem is we don't know what 5% are going to be the 5% that'll kill you. And that's the thing with asbestos. It's a fantastic product. If only it didn't cause cancer, it would be, it's fireproof. It has all of these great qualities, and then it causes cancer as well. So it's definitely something you need to be aware of, something you should be cautious of, and handling it incorrectly carries huge fines from OSHA and EPA and all those different things. So we'll go through some of that more here in a little bit, but we're also testing for mold and allergens and particulates and all sorts of stuff. So what we do, this is where I'm going to test. Does it work? Maybe.
You're Jimmy, right? This is your house?
Sure is.
I'm Winston Wolf. I solve problems.
Good, we got one.
So I heard. May I come in?
Yeah, please do.
All right, so that was anticlimactic. But anyway, the reality is, do I need to do something again, probably? Oh, it's just gonna keep going.
You're Dave, right? Yeah.
Dave, who's Dave? Just hit that. Go back to this. All right, so that was just a Pulp Fiction clip, but basically the point is we fix problems. All kinds of different stuff. Anybody that's watched Pulp Fiction, that's a good movie. But essentially, if you can imagine or think about your property and what's your worst nightmare, what's the worst thing that you could think of happen? You fall asleep at night and you get that phone call or you get the alarm or whatever. What is that thing that keeps you up?
Moving back in.
What's that?
Your cage moving back in.
That's true, and I'm not helping with that. Sorry. That's okay. You found the one thing I'll say no. But anyway, there's lots of different things that we can solve. Lots of things we can do. Water damage, we can handle that. Mold growth, fire damage cleanup, which is something nobody wants to deal with. Biohazard, and whether that's like trauma cleanup or people that pass away and are stuck there, or not stuck there, but left there for some period of time. Odor removal, I've got some pictures and things of that. Pest and rodent cleanup, this in the last, probably just the last couple of weeks, this seems to have gone crazy. I don't know if it's just a change in the weather or what, but people are having mouse infestations like crazy. And they get into the insulation and everything else. They make a horrible mess and a lot of smell that goes along with it. Hoarding, I'll show you a little bit of that. We'll clean that up for you. And then environmental testing is kind of the last piece. And if you guys have questions along the way, feel free to interrupt me. This is more fun if it's interactive. So by the numbers, the III, the International Insurance Institute, says that 1 in 20 residences will have a water loss of some type every year. So if you own 20 doors, 5% of them, we'll have one person, somebody that will have something go haywire with water. So it's a lot more common than we realize by a long shot. If you have a water loss of some sort, say a toilet supply line leaks or sewer breaks or whatever, within 3 days, that's going to turn into mold. So you've got day 1 where we can get started, get it dried out. Day 2 where we get really aggressive with it. By the start of that 3rd day, you're going to start seeing growth in there. So the key point there is don't wait for it to dry. And with the water loss, I meant to say this before, but there's 3 types of water in the world. Clean water, which would be safe to consume, just your average water coming out of a supply line or anything like that. Then your gray water, which is stuff from like sink drains or washing machine drain lines or any of those type of things. And then you got your black water, which is sewage. And Robert and I were talking about this a little bit ago, that the gray water is actually as bad as sewage can be. Gray water it smells worse. It's got a lot of different allergens and stuff in it. Sewage is sort of just sewage, you know what it is. Gray water can have any number of things in it. So it really, even though it doesn't sound as bad, it carries a lot of danger that goes with it. So, and we clean up all of them, doesn't matter which one. There are 206, I did a little bit extra research here putting this together, but there's 270 different species of mold that have been identified in buildings, which I was surprised by that number. That's a lot bigger number than I expected. Really around here and in most of the people I deal with and talk to, there's 3 real common types of mold. And that's Penicillium aspergillus, which is, it's a really light spore, really small, and it gets airborne very easily. So if there was some pen asp on the top of this and just walking by, you're gonna kick off millions of spores into the air that'll be ingested. And more often than not, pen asp is gonna give you like a kind of an allergy type reaction. So you'll get runny nose, watery eyes, sore throat, those type of things. So if you've got a house and people are complaining about allergies in times when it's not really allergy season, there's relatively good chance that there's some mold growing in there somewhere. Cladosporium is mostly comes from dead or dying plants. Like if leaves fall off of a plant and then they sit there and just rot in the soil, that's where you'll get cladosporium. Lots of different reactions that people have to that. Some of it's allergy type, very similar to pen asp. Some is like an asthma type reaction. Some is people actually get really sick. And then Stachybotrys is what's sort of known as the black mold, the toxic black mold. It got that name. It's a real heavy spore, and it's a water loving spore, so or mold, so it will be underneath things. It likes dark. So if you've had a water loss that sits there for a while, you'll get the stachy starting to grow. It doesn't get airborne very easily, so you have to ingest it, either touching it or somehow it gets on your hands or your food or something along those lines. And that's how you end up getting it. And stachy will make you sick. Like that's an actual illness that you'll get. So those are kind of the most common 3 that we deal with and come across in our world. They say 10% of the population has mold allergies of some sort. And that can vary in degree. Every person is different. We've got some customers that will walk by, there's a drain hose on a dishwasher that's got some mold in it. They walk by it and they, like canary in a coal mine, they point to it and say there's something going on there. Super sensitive and very quick to realize it. And then there's other people, like people that meet and work with me, that just we don't really react to it. So it just doesn't bother us. I guess it's just the luck of the draw. Some of it is genetic, some of it is just your makeup, however you are. And I think there's probably also something that if you've been around it a lot, you either get more sensitive or less sensitive to it, and have different reactions to it there. So, and like it says, half of them result in actual illnesses. And the last, by the numbers, pictures are worth 1,000 words. So with that, we'll dive in. So this one, this is from a house here in town. And I'm going to implore you guys as we get towards winter to make sure that you winterize your irrigation systems. And make sure your neighbors winterize their irrigation systems too. This was actually a guy whose neighbor's irrigation system popped on, I think it was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And the water ran out of the valve box, down through and into his crawl space. And so we've been pumping this for probably an hour by the time we were able to get in and get that picture. But it was full. I could stand full height in there once the water was all out of there. And it was at least chest deep. So there was a ton of water in that place. And all from his neighbor. He hadn't done nothing wrong. He woke up in the morning, he called us because his backyard looked like a pool. And then he looked in there and made the phone call. And so what we do, we go into that situation, we pump all the water out, we put a whole bunch of blowing equipment and drying equipment in there to get the air to mix up. That is one benefit we have here as compared to like Florida, the Southeast. People where we have the ability to use Mother Nature for the most part to help us dry things out. Those people with the super high humidity and wet air, they struggle to be able to dry things out as quickly as we can. So we got that going for us. But typically, so we'll get that all pumped out, cleaned out, dried out, and then we go in and we put in a vapor barrier, get it all cleaned up and back to snuff. So that one, And it's a slow process too, just so you know. I mean, we get the water out of there and get air moving so that the mold won't grow. But that probably, by the time a crawl space is flooded, you're looking at a week or more of drying equipment to get it to dry. Yeah.
Did he have any settling issues with his foundation?
Not that we saw during that time. I haven't checked back on it, but no, that's definitely an issue. That house was pretty old. You can tell just by the floor joists, the beams that they had built there. So it had been there for quite a while. That helps. If it had been a new house, for sure, that would have been a concern. Absolutely. So that's one water loss. So here's one. This was Mother's Day. Here's the joys for this group. The joys of multi-unit buildings. You can afford to buy a place on Lake Tahoe, have a beautiful view and all these great things about it. And the downside of it, here's the toilet supply line in the source unit. Here's the unit you'll see a picture of in a second, kind of in the middle. And then here's another unit, and they're kind of, obviously they were level, but it was sort of stepped down. So water runs downhill and created this. So that was like 2 o'clock on Mother's Day. We got that phone call. The supply line. This is the kitchen. So if this room, the supply line would have been like right up here, and it was actually in the other unit. So the lady that owned this was there 6 days prior or so. Everything was fine. She left. She lives down here in town. She left. And then what typically ends up creating a phone call is the fire alarm system goes off because it somehow shorts out with all the water going in. And so we think it ran for 5 to 6 days. And it's just like a, I don't know, 1/2-inch line. So it's not very big around, but you think about how much water and pressure is coming out of that for 6 days straight. It drilled a hole. I didn't take a picture of it, but it drilled a hole in the wall across the bathroom. So there was a ton of water pressure there. So it flooded down into this unit. This is all, it's interesting because latex paint, how strong it actually is, it's peeling off the drywall and holding, and it gets these giant bubbles. I think there's more here. Yeah, you can see them. This is in the basement of that room or of that condo. And so it just starts growing these big pimples essentially. Then my guys love going in and popping those. It's one of the joys they have in this business. Run around with screwdrivers, poking them. But anyway, so that all came down. I took a picture of this just because to show you. So on the backside of this wall, this was actually the source unit. Backside of that wall was like a $20,000 marble shower. It was a beautiful shower. I should have taken a picture of it, but I didn't. But so rather than tearing out that shower and everything around it and creating a ton of extra work for ourselves and cost for the people, we poked holes behind it, and that's an injection drying system. So we just push a whole bunch of air into that wall cavity and let it circulate and cycle that way. So we're able to keep that dry without having to do a whole bunch of extra demolition and work. So that was a huge project. The lady that owned that center unit that took all the damage, she has her only daughter is getting married, not this weekend, but next. And it was supposed to have been in there, but which it is. At this point, I just talked to her today. We're gonna get it done for her. So it was definitely, that was a big project and a big push for us to get things done. But to go in and do that, I could have put more pictures, but we essentially tore every bit of drywall out of that. It's the only way to get enough airflow moving. So if you have multi-unit places, definitely make sure you stay on top of those supply lines, keep an eye on those things, make sure they don't or mitigate as much as possible having those problems. So if somebody opts for the wait and see approach, typically leaks won't fix themselves. Occasionally they do, but more often than not, they don't. Mold's an opportunistic organism is how they refer to it. So as long as it's got food and water, which food is the paper backing on drywall more often than not. It can also be like the underlayment on floors, carpet backing, but tons of, for whatever reason, drywall, when it gets wet, that paper on the back, mold just grows like crazy in that, and it can expand super fast. So that's where you get it in those 2 to 3 days. It can go dormant. And from the real estate side, we hear this from inspectors all the time that it's dormant mold. Don't worry about it. And there's some truth to that. It's not growing anymore, but it can be just as dangerous. We were talking about Penicillium aspergillus, and when it's dry and it can be kicked off into the air, you're going to breathe those. And so anything that goes dormant, it's easier to get into the airstream and becomes more dangerous, easier to ingest and cause other problems for you. So, and then it can also, as soon as it, being an opportunistic organism, as soon as it has water and food again, it'll come right back to life and just start growing. So even dormant mold, as they say, is something that should be dealt with. The only real way to deal with it is to physically go in and remove the mold, which our guys, so when you'll see some of these pictures, but what we do is our process is typically we scrub it with wire brushes or sand it to make sure we get all of the physical, the 3D growth off of there. And then we'll treat it with a biocide. So you spray it, and that biocide, a lot of people in the old school way of doing it was to use bleach. And bleach does exactly what it does. It bleaches it, so you can't see it anymore. But there's no surfactant in bleach, so it doesn't actually penetrate the surface and kill the mold that's inside of there. So you'll see if you guys have ever bleached, mildew in your shower or anything like that, it goes away for a short period of time, but then it always grows right back. So you need something that's going to kill it inside the surface of the wood or whatever it's on. So, so we treat it with a biocide, then we do a disinfectant, and then depending on what the situation is, we'll encapsulate it. So we paint it over it to cover up the staining. But we use a special paint that allows the air to continue flowing. Yeah.
Why can't you use some kind of paint initially as opposed to having removing it? If it's, say it's like a dormant, but then you just paint over it with that oil base or something.
The problem is that if it's still there, it can potentially get wet again, and then it's going to continue to grow. And if you paint it over it and made it so you don't see it, then it's going to do more damage before you end up. That's how you end up with real severe dry rot. We run into. Then you can't. I mean, a lot of people do, but at some point you've got to get rid of the mold. So you get to a point where if it's on your floor joist, you end up cutting them off and getting them out of there, and then sistering new joists back into it.
Say if mold is in a space, and if you seal it with some kind of sealer, are you not sealing off the mold from the space? I mean, with the molds
to a degree,
paint then
it can, depending on there's 270 different types of mold, and they all feed on different things. But and that does work in certain cases.
I'm saying it's not like a obvious, like a broken pipe or some obvious,
right?
It's like
for
more
sure.
of an atmospheric,
yeah.
like
And if
crawl
it's
space or
the problem with crawl spaces is that if it's not an inhabitable space, so it's not any place that people are living, so you don't really care what's going on down there. But if your HVAC system gets a breach in it somehow, or it's the what if factor, and if it gets into the airstream in the house, then what are you doing? When what are you going to cause? So there's a risk versus reward on all of these situations. It's definitely not. It's not. We don't paint with a broad brush. We don't always do the same thing. Every situation we take a different look at and make sure we approach it. Yeah.
Anne online is asking, can you discuss the difference between mildew and mold? Can an average person do a do-it-yourself to try and determine which it is?
Short answer is yes. What we'd recommend is wear like an N95 mask. So even if you are wiping it up, you're not ingesting that stuff. The difference between mildew and mold is there really isn't a difference. They're the same thing. Mildew is just more commonly referred to in places you expect to see it, I think. In your showers, around your sink basins and things like that, that's where you'll see it, and people just refer to it as mildew. It's also typically one of those molds that's less dangerous because we deal with it, we get rid of it quickly. If you were to have mildew in a shower, like we see this all the time with second homes that people aren't in very often. They haven't cleaned the shower, haven't cleaned up the sinks, and then they leave for a while, come back, and the mold is taken off and grown pretty substantially. So to deal with it yourself, wear an N95 mask, which you can get those at Home Depot. And then there's tons of disinfectants that you can get. You just want to make sure it's a broad-based disinfectant. And if it has some kind of a biocide component to it, that'll help to kill off the mold. If that doesn't answer your question, let me know. So the physically removing it, and actually the same thing with mildew, going and wiping it down with some sort of disinfectant is going to guarantee that it's gone. You're actually taking it away from there. To just spray it with something, you may or may not get all of it. You may or may not kill it. So back to more pictures here. This is a really nice house down in Washoe Valley, kind of right beneath the $1 billion bridge there. And this guy has we've done 4, I think, remediations in his house. Which I'll tell you more about why that is, but so he had a leak that was actually cleaned up and remediated by one of our competitors, and they didn't get it all. And so this is underneath his hardwood flooring. It was probably 2 years-ish, but it was everywhere. You can see how severe that mold is, and we didn't test it, he just wanted it gone. But we pulled up all the flooring, you can see kind of the staining here where it was. So we pull up the flooring, then we treat it, we scrub it, we kind of do it again and again. As long as the flooring hasn't lost any of its structural integrity, we can clean it and not have to worry about replacing the subfloor. If it gets to that point, we can.
Yeah, you can clean the subfloor.
Yeah, we do it just like any
Clean
wood.
all the nooks and crannies that you.
So first thing you gotta do is get it dry. Particle board, no SB, yeah, it takes a while. But it's doable. And then I didn't take a picture of it, but we end up encapsulating that. So we end up putting that special paint over it that's got a microbial or antimicrobial, and it allows it to breathe still. So if it does get wet, it'll dry. That's the biggest problem. If you paint it over like an oil-based thing and you totally seal it up, unless it's someplace that you don't have to worry about it. But if it can't breathe at all, it's just going to sit there and continue to rot. So we use it. It's called Fiberlock 6000, but yeah, so we went through and you end up tearing out a lot of flooring. We tear out a lot of stuff, but got it cleaned up for him and then put the flooring back together afterwards. This is Panda Bear. This is your house or was your house. So when Robert called us, we went down in there. The relative humidity in that crawl space was like 92%. It was dripping. I mean, I did the inspection myself and I think, yeah. So this is PEX for those of you that don't know building products necessarily. The red is hot water, the blue is cold water, the white is, I think that's a drain line. You'll see PEX in red, white, and blue for different things and different purposes. But what happened in that previous house I showed you, the manufacturer of that PEX plumbing had a production problem. What we're finding out, or certain production run, certain time period, where at the joints, so at the 90s and at the T's, this one was at a T, where it splits. And it kind of goes back both directions from depending if it's a T or an elbow. And they just start leaking. And unfortunately, in a crawl space, unless somebody happens to be down there and see it, you just don't know about it. So this one, I would bet that this leaked from the.
Watching your water bill.
Unless you're watching your water bill, yeah, that's a good indicator. Yeah.
There, didn't pay attention.
Didn't see that. Yeah, exactly. I would be willing to bet this leaked from just about the day it was built. It had leaked for a long time. And so you can see, yeah. So this is kind of a goofy picture, but that's the foundation footing right there. And I mean, there's mold everywhere in there. And it leaked when I got in there, all of the insulation, you can't see it real well, but all the insulation was just dripping. It had condensation on it everywhere. I was dripping. And so we went through, and as you start pulling down the insulation, you can start to see it. And there's this black mold on everything. This was just a test area. We wanted to see if we could get it, how clean we could get it, and if it would dry out, and structurally how it would hold up. So that's kind of the process that we go through. It's a ton of work down in there, but this is kind of the end result. This one, it was a huge house. I forget how many square feet that was, but it was big. But we could do that on a localized basis. So we basically built a wall out of poly and just took care of one wing of the house. Didn't have to touch the rest of it. So that's why you kind of see different colors poly here, but that's the crawl space hatch. So as you come down in, you go and you do your work, you get your stuff cleaned up and done, and you got to get it dry, and then you got to go through and clean it up. So that was that one. So I could show you thousands of pictures of mold, but they kind of all look the same at some point. My phone's full of them. So I'll just show you a few of the other things that we do, and certainly we can come back to mold if anybody has questions. So water and mold damage is probably, I'm gonna say 65% of our business. So that's really the lion's share of what we do. But we also do fire cleanups. This is one, we're almost done with this house. This is out in Fallon. This was a disabled vet. He was asleep right there when that outlet caught fire. He had an oxygen tank right there. He had a little bottle of butane. I don't know what it was for, but he had one right next to him. He's super lucky that he didn't blow up the house. But yeah, that was a mess. And the crazy thing with fires, I mean, you've got that to deal with and clean up, and there's a project there, but just the smoke that goes throughout the house. So as that temperature increases inside of a room or a structure of any kind, it pressurizes and just shoves the smoke and the soot and the stink into everything. And you end up with these soot webs. They probably were spider webs at one point, but the soot just sticks to them. And so then we literally go in and wipe down every single surface in that house. We got just kind of a multi-purpose cleaner that we use that's not going to tear up the paint. And we go through and just clean up everything. That's what that house looked like earlier this week. This is the bedroom, so we cut that out. That's the outlet is over here dangling somewhere. But we just wiped down all those walls, and then we've gone through and painted everything. So it can be fixed. It's not cheap.
So Joe,
Yes, sir.
so you cut it out, but do you put it all back together, or do you just?
We can. So our rule of thumb for our group and my guys is 2 sheets of drywall. If it's 2 sheets or less, we can handle it, no problem. We can get it put back together. Anything more than that, we'll refer over to a drywall contractor that's just going to be more efficient. Have guys that can do it better and faster and cheaper. So this is what biohazard cleanup. Anybody's real sensitive stomachs, I apologize, but that's what happens when people pass away and they live on their own. I think for the multifamily units and things like that, that happens more often than we'd like to admit. You know, people pass away and then don't have anybody checking on them or anything like that. And then, you know, a month later, 6 weeks later, whatever it is, we get the call and go in and clean it up. Smoke odor. This one happens a ton. It's pretty crazy. So that's the same wall. You can kind of see the outline of a picture right there. That's 40 years of smoking in that house. And I mean, that is as yellow as it was. It's unbelievable. Imagine what that guy's lungs looked like. But and then this is what the smoke, that same picture frame after we've gone through and cleaned it. So you never, not that you never, but it's hard to get it truly 100% clean. You end up having to paint it afterwards anyway. You can just go in there and paint it before you clean it and do the wipe down and everything, but the smoke odor just never goes away. So you got to do that. You've got to do that cleaning. It'll end up seeping through. Yeah, you'll never get rid of it entirely. So it's a labor intensive process. Again, we wipe down every single surface in the house. Everything porous has to go. Carpet, furniture, anything like that. Anything that would soak up water has to be tossed, and then we go from there. So, but we do it a lot. It's amazing how much we end up
So
doing.
what do you guys treat that with?
We've got a product that's called Tobacco Attack. It's actually built for tobacco residue. We spray it and then we let it sit there and soak for 3 to 5 minutes and then wipe it down. And then it's usually, like that one, it was probably 3 or 4 times. But yeah, then it comes clean. I mean, it can be resurrected. It's not that it can't be, it's just a process. This was one of the grossest ones I think I've seen. Anybody want to take a bet or take a guess as to what that is? It is dog poop. A lady, this was out in Fernley. I know she had 3 dogs. I think she must have had more than that, or it was a very long period of time. But she kept them in there, never let them out. And that was what they did. It's nice. She's got a mop right there, just in case. Yeah, exactly. But as they were selling this house, the owner, wanted to keep the tile. They didn't want us to tear up the floor. So we went through and scraped poop for days on end. I got it all up and out of there. I think in the end, the real estate agent had her change the floor because it just doesn't. I mean, we can cut the wall, we can cut a lot of stuff out, but grout is porous. It soaks up that odor. So it gets pretty nasty, but again, something we can do, get cleaned up. So this one, this is the worst case scenario, it got blocked out. How do I know? Oh, yeah. I'm gonna hopefully mute this. This was taken by the owner of this house first, so I'm gonna show you a before and after.
Oh,
Wow.
This is unbelievable. They took 72 cats out of this house in the car.
Wow. How many were alive?
I didn't ask. Not all of them, though.
All right.
2 people.
Well, recycle.
I'm gonna hopefully stop, pause. Okay. I'm not gonna go the last 13 seconds there. You can imagine what the bathroom looked like. So no, go. So this is what our guys wore while we were doing it. And I told my guys during that process, if they will get the whole house done, I dropped them off. This was in Winnemucca. Dropped them off on Monday. I said, if you guys get the whole house done by Thursday, I'll come back Friday and do the bathroom. They worked their butts off to get it off by Thursday, I can tell you. And then, can I show this one? Ah, stop. Stop. No, no, no. No. Made it.
Want it to be a surprise.
No, I don't want to show it.
You're halfway there.
You really? I can show you. Okay.
You lost the bet. What did you?
Fearless, you've seen it over.
Yeah. Very popular. What should be expecting.
Hopefully everybody. I told you. So there was nothing up against that wall. Other than just a pile of used toilet paper.
Hey, Jackie.
Oh, so everything ended up sideways.
Easy.
Wow, why
You
did
just
it?
throw out all the sheetrock. Huh?
We took, it wasn't sheetrock, it was like a particle board, something, it absorbed odor. Was why, I don't know why that turned, but you can imagine what it looks like. So yeah, we tore that down to the studs entirely. They wanted us to leave the pad was super glued down and stuck, and they were tired of spending the money, so they had us just leave that. Yeah, that's a weird picture, but anyway, that's the bathroom right there. And then those are the bedrooms. So that was by far the worst we've seen in terms of hoarding and just absolute filth. I bet there was 3,000 Bud Light cans in there. I mean, it was close to waist deep everywhere you walked. And yeah, there was a guy that was living there. He was actually a chef at one of the local Winnemucca fine dining restaurants. So yeah, that was terrible, I'll admit. But so when I first showed up to do the inspection, I talked to the lady. It was passed down from a grandfather to the grandson, and the mother was the one in between. Yeah, exactly. And when the grandson took it over, the tenant was still there. It took him like 6 months to get the guy out. And when I showed up to do the inspection, I said, in all honesty, I'll just show up with an excavator. We can take care of this and be done. And she said that this was last summer, or maybe the summer before. But she said with the real estate market in Winnemucca, it was valuable enough for them to spend. It was $25,000 for us to go through and clean that place up. And she said, you clean it up, we'll refinish it, put it back together. It'll be rented the next day and it'll be making money. So, you know, it was one of those, it penciled out. It made sense to just go ahead and get it fixed and cleaned up. So, not that I hope any of you guys have that problem, but if you do, you know who to call. So the last piece here before I finish, I don't know how I'm doing on time. Environmental testing is an area that we've always done, but we're going to start pushing it more. We talked a little bit about the asbestos sampling, but I think even more, that's important and we have to do it. And the nice thing is that we can go in and we can tell you if it's got asbestos, we can refer you over to, we don't do asbestos abatement. But we can refer you to somebody that does. If it does not have asbestos, we can just go right in and start doing the work. We do it for worker safety. That way we can We don't have to do the full report. It's not for bidding purposes or anything like that. The mold testing side of things, there's a lot of people out there that we're discovering have real serious mold allergies. We've talked to some of the allergy doctors. We've talked to all these different people in different worlds that have real serious health issues that we can go in, you know, they can't really identify why they don't feel well when they're at home or when they sleep in their bed. But if we go in and do an air test and pull a sample from right next to their bed, then we can tell them what they're actually breathing when they're laying there 8 hours a night or 4 hours a night, as the case may be. And so we can help with that. If there's visible mold, if we can actually see it and they want to identify it and figure out what it is, we can go in and do a tape lift and send it off to the lab. The lab does the analysis and we just get the report back from them. We can share it and then kind of make a determination decision. You know, is it something that we want to deal with and go after, or is it something that is really not that big a deal? Maybe there's something else going on from a health perspective. The risk with air samples, and especially those of you as property managers and landlords, if you do an air sample and it shows that there is mold, now you got to do something about it. You got to figure out where it's coming from. So if I put an air pump right here and pull in air or mold spores, we have no real way of knowing exactly where they came from. So it can lead to a lot more work. So if you have tenants that are talking about wanting to get a mold test, I would really try to discourage them from doing it. Not that we won't come in and do it, but it can open up Pandora's box. You know, a lot of what we do with air samples, we take an outdoor sample so that we have a control, and then we come inside and do however many samples we need to in the house. And then you can compare them. The reality is mold's everywhere. It's all around us all the time. It's in our digestive systems. I mean, we can't live without mold. Some of us can't live with mold. So there's a fine line there of making a decision as to how and what the approach is. So it's just something you need to be aware of. And then there's also the particulate and allergen testing. So if people are having allergies and illnesses and things like that, but there's no mold, if the house is clean, then you can start looking at dander, you know, pet dander. A lot of people are allergic to pet dander. There's tons of different things that we can be allergic to and have reactions to that may or may not be mold. So the idea is that we can help you kind of work through that process and figure out what you need to do or not do. And in a nutshell, that's it for me. Does anybody have questions or mold they want to get rid of? I will tell you that, and you guys can feel free to put these in if you've got units that you've got tenants coming into. Feel free to put these in. Let me know. I can get you more of them. It just kind of goes through what to do, what not to do if you have a leak, a fire, if you come across mold. It doesn't go into biohazard reporting. There's not much you can do other than call us. But feel free to pass those out and let your tenants know. So hopefully they're educated and not trying to fix these problems on their own. We end up doing a lot of things where we're fixing problems that people have had, or things that DIYers have tried to fix on their own. That end up being good business for us. Yes, sir.
And you're the guy to talk to, like in the future?
Yep, you can call me. I own it. I mean, there's other people that might answer the phone, but
You're the main.
I'm
The boss.
it all falls into my lap eventually. Yeah, exactly. No questions? Cool. Thank you. That's great. Absolutely. Thank you guys.
That was good. Thank you. So you guys can stick around. We can network if you want. Same time, same location, same time. Third Wednesday of every month, we meet here in this room. And we don't have a speaker for next month. So if you know of someone that you'd like to hear from, or you want me to reach out to, city, whatever county assessor, whatever. If you would like to hear from them, let me know. I'm not shy. I'll reach out. I'll find someone.
That's what we love about you,
So I love great speakers. So yeah, if you guys have someone in mind that you'd like to hear from, that's awesome. So.